What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games, Ironsworn. So I've talked about Ironsworn Starforged before, but I've not really talked about Ironsworn. So the games are very similar, but Ironsworn is more focused on fantasy games, and Starforged is more focused on sci-fi. So Ironsworn is a game system developed by Sean Tompkin. If you want to hear him talk about it, he has an excellent podcast called Ask the Oracle, where he actually plays through a campaign with his son, and it is fantastic to listen to. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is the various ways that you can play Ironsworn, what makes it effective at what it does, and generally how you can get started playing Ironsworn today. It's not as complicated as you might think. So without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, first things first, you'll notice that my camera angle is a little bit different than I usually do. That's because I wanted to kind of show you how I set up for a game of Ironsworn. I actually leave this set up at my table all week so that when I have a few extra minutes, I can come by, develop a little bit of story, roll a couple dice, and move along with my game. Then, if I get interrupted, I just leave it here and I can come back to it later. This is very unlike most RPGs where you have to have a dedicated amount of time to get anything done enjoyable with them. Ironsworn's set up very bite-sized in the way that its mechanics work so that you can perform one move, make some notes, and then leave the table for days even and come back to it. I've been playing the campaign that I'm on right now for a few weeks, and I have done that several times. Just had a few minutes, played a little bit, got interrupted by the kids, moved on, came back to it. Ironsworn is excellent for this kind of bite-sized RPG feel. Now what I have here, I've got my Ironsworn character sheet. They do suggest to use paper clips in the book. I actually like using these little post-it notes because you can move them and they don't tear up the paper. Here I have my Ironsworn journal tracker, which I created to help me better set up the fiction. I was struggling to decide how much fiction to supply in my journaling process versus how much to just let live in my mind and die in my mind. I think that I've came to a nice happy medium here where I've got enough room to put 2 or 3 sentences of fiction, then a place to record my move, the challenge dice, the action score, and whether it was a strong hit, weak hit, or a miss, and then the fiction describing what happens after that. So by doing this, I can easily look back at previous sessions and know exactly where my game's at without spending days on end trying to type up a novel about my character. So this is something that I'm currently working on getting uploaded to RPG Geek, and Sean Tompkin was kind enough to tell me that I would be able to do that with no problems from him. So kudos to Tom. The other thing I keep at my table is my Ironsworn binder, which has extra copies of my journal tracker sheet. It's got all of the playbook or play kit information. I actually have Starforged and Ironsworn in this. It's got the Delve play kit as well, and I've got a nice map of the Ironlands and the Truths workbook. Before I was using my journal sheet, I used to use note cards, and so I still keep the note card around that has the truths about my world. The other thing that I'm going to keep close by my side is going to be the Ironsworn Lodestar book, which you can get from Drive-Thru RPG. This book is going to have all of the moves and the oracles from the original Ironsworn game. So it's nice because it is very short compared to the actual full book. It's about 36 pages, and if you need to roll a random name, an action and a theme, so on and so forth. It's right here. I also keep my Ironsworn Delve book and my regular Ironsworn book close by my side. Then, this is my kind of Ironsworn travel kit, and here is the asset deck, which you can get from DriveThruRPG. I believe this costs about 20 bucks, and it is well worth it to get. These cards are really nice. I do have mine sleeved so that I can write on them with a dry erase marker and keep track of what upgrades I've chosen. Now, you can print these out yourself, but the quality and the price, I think, merits going ahead and picking up a set of these from DriveThruRPG. My second tray, I keep my D10s, my D6s, and a character to keep track of where I am at on the map. In the bottom here, I have the same thing, but for Starforged. This whole kit goes right back together and closes magnetically and is easily stored away. In the separate box, I have the cards from Ironsworn Delve. Ironsworn Delve adds the ability to randomly create dungeons and caverns and things of that nature using domains and themes, and you can have these at the table to help you to envision what your character is exploring. If you have not picked up Ironsworn Delve, I would highly recommend it. Many of the mechanics of Ironsworn Delve have been incorporated into Starforged, so if you have that, you kind of know what you're getting into. So how does Ironsworn work? Well, we're going to get into that right now. To give you an idea of how Ironsworn works in play, I'm going to go over the character sheet with you first. This is Albin. Albin is my hero of my story, and he has a number of attributes. He has edge, heart, iron, shadow, and wits. If you're going to compare these to D&D, edge is like your agility, iron is like your strength and constitution, shadow is going to be like your stealthiness, which would be more of a skill in D&D than an attribute, but so on and so forth. Shadow is also representative of being deceptive. Wits is going to be your intelligence. And then heart is generally kind of a combination of your charisma and your willpower, your ability to go ahead and do things even though it may be dangerous and take some courage. So with the game, anytime that you are doing something, you are going to start with fiction. You're going to say, Albin is going to undertake a journey to try to find the rare root that is going to be used to create the poultice to save the captain from his disease that he has developed. Okay, so then once you do that in the fiction, you determine what move would be appropriate for that. In this case, it's going to be undertake a journey. And because he's already established earlier that the murals in an ancient ruin that he is exploring depicted a garden from a civilization long past, and there is a very good likelihood that the root he is looking for might be found there still to this day. So he's following these ancient ruins, and he is going to try to use those as a guide to get him to where he wants to go, so he would then undertake a journey. What you would do in that case is you would roll 2 10-sided dice and 1 6-sided dice. The 10-sided dice are called your challenge dice, and the 6-sided dice is called your action die. So you add the appropriate attribute based on what you're doing to your action die, and then you compare it to the challenge dice. If your action die plus whatever different attribute you chose is going to beat a score. So like, for example, if I was using my wits of 2 plus my action die of 2, that gives me a 4. Since that 4 is greater than the 2, then I actually beat that 2. However, I did not beat the 6. If this was a 4, I still didn't beat it because you have to have more than, not equal to. So in this case, I've beaten one of the challenge dice, but I failed to defeat the other challenge die. This, in the terms of Ironsworn, is considered a weak hit. If I had missed both of them, I would have had a miss. If I had beaten both of them, then I would have had a strong hit. Each of the moves in the game has a mechanical effect that is related to whether you got a strong hit, a weak hit, or a miss. Oftentimes with a miss, you're also going to have to pay the consequences, which can involve rolling on a chart or choosing one of the various items from the chart to pay the consequences. If you get matches on the action dice, that means that everything is ramped up to 11. So if you had a strong hit with matches, then something really good is going to happen in addition to whatever the mechanical impact is. The really good is probably going to be more narrative than mechanical. And if it was reversed and you got a strong miss on a match, then something really bad is going to happen. Maybe reinforcements showed up for the enemy, or perhaps you got to your destination and you find out that you've been going the wrong way or going about it the wrong way the whole time. Now, that's the whole mechanic for the game. There are some additional things that kind of aid that, though. So along the left side of your character sheet, there is a momentum track. Certain moves are going to grant you extra momentum. And you can burn momentum in order to effectively eliminate any action dice that are below that amount. So if I had a 2 and a 6, and I've got my 3 momentum here, I could burn my momentum and get rid of that 2. So I no longer have to worry about beating that because anything's going to beat it. I'd still lose to this 6 though. Now, if you do choose to burn your momentum, there's going to be a reset based on the condition of your character. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I will tell you that it generally starts at 2. On the right-hand side of your character sheet, you're going to have health, spirit, and supply. These are all ways that you can pay for the consequences of your actions if things don't go well. And when you reach 0 at any of them, you're going to get a debility. The debility is going to lower your maximum allowed momentum, and it is also going to have its own test that comes with it. You'll notice at the top here, there are some various boxes. These are for your bonds and your vows. Vows can be thought of as quests, and they are how you gain experience in Ironsworn. Each one is going to fill up at a different rate based upon how difficult the challenge is, which you're going to set whenever you choose that vow. Now, I'm going to go over to how I use my journal tracker to make this process easier. Going back to the example that I used earlier, while I was searching through the jungle to try to find the mysterious route to cure the captain, I said that I was following the pillars and the ruins to try to get closer to this mysterious garden that was depicted on the mural. So that's going to be an undertake a journey. That's going to be rolling my action die plus wits. Well, I ended up getting a 5 for my action score, but I got a 6 and a 9 on the challenge dice. That means since I didn't beat either one of those, this is going to be a flat-out miss. There are some consequences for that, namely, I have to pay the price, which would involve getting out my Lodestar book and going to the pay the price table, as you see right here. Now, when you pay the price, you can pick whatever would be narratively appropriate, or you can roll at random. Or, something to do to add a little bit more variety to your game, you can roll an action and a theme. So there are D100 tables of different adverbs, adjectives, and verbs to do actions and themes. So with this, I actually rolled uphold duty. So my pay the price is going to have to do with something upholding duty. Well, I'm in a jungle and it's an ancient ruin of a very advanced but now gone civilization. So what would upholding duty look like in that situation? So I decided that it seems that the sound created by the disturbed ruins has awakened an ancient guardian tasked with the protection of the ruins. And so now, whenever I leave the game and I come back, it's going to be very easy for me to see exactly where I am in the story. So what do you need to get started with Ironsworn? Well, actually, the PDF of the book is available for free on DriveThruRPG. Thank you, Sean Tompkin. But I would highly suggest picking up at least the softcover. I have the softcover and the hardcover because I like to be able to throw one into a bag and not have to worry about it while I'm traveling. But I do enjoy the hardcover for the look. So my suggestion is you pick up the softcover book after reading the PDF and making sure that the game is going to be for you. I will tell you, it is going to play and read quite differently than any RPG that you've played before. That's okay. Just my suggestion would be to definitely listen to the Ask the Oracle podcast, because that gives you a great idea of how it will look at your table and will probably let you know whether you think this is going to be a game for you or not. So you start with the rules, and then I would definitely pick up a copy of the asset deck. The asset deck is going to have all of the character options that you're going to have when you're creating your character, and there are a ton. Most of these have 3 different levels of asset that you can collect. So for example, each time I level up my companion hound Joku, then I can add a different advantage to him, something that he helps me with in the mechanical part of the game. And when you go through this deck, you are going to find all sorts of options. You can effectively create any kind of character that you could possibly imagine with very little additional changes to what's here. He's got a vast majority of archetypes and ideas covered, and since you're going to choose 3 of these assets to start the game with, you're going to have an interesting character right out of the gate. So after you have the core rule book and the asset deck, if you want to expand your game a little bit, first thing I would pick up would be the reference guide. That makes looking up the different moves and oracles much quicker at the table, and it is just a very cheap and effective way to speed up your game. After you have that, I would highly suggest adding Delve. Delve is going to take a mechanic that is very similar to the regular journey move from Ironsworn and use that to have dungeon crawling experiences with your heroes. It also adds some new enemies and some very interesting examples of how this should play out. Great book, and I think you should definitely think about adding it. If you do add Delve, you might want to pick up the Delve cards. Now, these are not as critical as the asset cards, but they do have some cards that have the new moves for Delve. They have cards that cover the different domains and themes for the areas that you're going to be delving into. And they have some blank ones that you can use to create your own themes and domains. Like I said, this is not critical, but it is a nice add to your Ironsworn experience. So, who is Ironsworn for? Well, obviously it's going to be great for any solo player. I have been playing in this Ironsworn campaign for like 3 weeks now, and like I said, it's really neat because I can, just in my free time, when I have an extra 5 minutes, come down, write a little bit of fiction, make a roll, and then envision what that looks like in the fiction based upon the mechanics. And if I get interrupted, I can leave it and I can come back at a later time. I also like it because it is very flexible, because it is not necessarily rules light, but mechanics light. It is able to handle pretty much any sort of setting. So I've had the Hot Springs Island books on my shelf for years, and I decided that because I don't have a group that's really interested in exploring the Hot Springs Islands, I'm going to do that myself in Ironsworn, and it's worked out wonderfully. You could also play Ravenloft with this. You could play, with a little bit of imagination, you could even play modern settings with this. You could re-theme the different assets to easily cover modern concepts. Now, I've brought up that this is a great solo experience, but I think it would be also very good for role players that are not very experienced with the genre of role playing, and I think that by it being a more emergent play experience, it doesn't take any prep work ahead of time by the GM. So, for example, last week I thought that I was going to be missing 60% of my group. That didn't end up happening, but my plan was I was going to run them through a game of Ironsworn because I have no prep in it, and it tells a great story. It's easy to teach, and I think that it would be enjoyable for them. If you have players that really like Powered by the Apocalypse, this system is going to be very familiar to them. It's not exactly Powered by the Apocalypse, but it's similar enough that they're going to understand the concepts probably quicker than somebody that's only ever played Dungeons and Dragons. So who this is not for? This is not going to be for somebody that is a power gamer. Because you're in control all the time, you could easily game the system and ruin your own experience in trying to power game your way through it. So if you've got somebody that is really into that Munchkin style of play, they'll either have to come at this from a different angle, or they're probably not going to enjoy it very much. And if you're playing as part of a group, they may ruin it for everybody else as well. But generally, I think that Ironsworn is a fantastic system. I am always happy to get it to the table. I am embarrassed that it took me so long to find it. I know that some of you in the comments had brought up Ironsworn several times whenever I was talking about different RPG systems, and I had always put it off, but I am fully on board with Ironsworn now, and I hope that you will be too. Again, I have uploaded my Ironsworn journal tracker to RPG Geek, so once the moderators approve that, then that will be available to you if you want to use this. I have it so that it prints front and back the same thing, so you get 4 moves to 1 sheet of paper. It doesn't use much ink, and it is a nice way to keep track of your journeys. So this is basically a very quick overview of what Ironsworn looks like. I didn't really even get into combat or how the different progress trackers work, but that is all very simple as well. And I think that if you can play any RPG system, you can play Ironsworn. And I think that it will teach you to be a better GM because it makes you think in terms of fiction, not just mechanics. And that is where Sean has really knocked a home run out of the park. And that is why I am suggesting Ironsworn for you today. So this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. And if you did enjoy the content, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, good gaming, and God bless.